So what can you do with the usability package? As I mentioned earlier, we want you to have the best experience with your SAP Business One. That's why we have the Boyum products. Also, so you know, we are the biggest solution provider for SAP Business One, and you never have to worry about it when you upgrade your SAP Business One, because we work very close with SAP and we make sure our solutions always work with the latest release. The usability package is a tool where you can customize your SAP, as I mentioned earlier, and you do not need to be a developer. That's the beauty of it, okay? Because what happens when you need customizations? You go to a developer, you scope it out, they start coding, then you test, test, and test. And then you maybe find something wrong, and then maybe have to recode everything. With the usability package, you can do a lot of customization without being a developer. And you don't have to worry about it if your customization breaks if you upgrade SAP Business One. Because as I mentioned earlier, we work very close with SAP and we make sure we are always up to date to the latest version. So what I would like to do now is I show you some examples. I'm not going to go through a whole demo. Of course, if you want to have a one-to-one demo, please talk to your partner. We can set something up one-to-one. But what I really want to show you is some examples what you can do with the usability package and with print and delivery. So first example is an automation. If you use batch numbers, for example, okay, those are just examples to give you a good idea what you can do with the usability package. When you put in a delivery and you have batch items, what happens? You get a box and you have to select the batch manually. So let's go into SAP and I'm going to try to do a delivery. I'm going to go pull up a business partner and I'm going to select some batch items. And what happens, what you're used to it when you have a delivery and you click add, you will get a box to select the batch numbers. And it can be very time consuming, very cumbersome. Okay, you spend time and selecting the batch. Imagine your line, your sales deliveries are 50 to 100 lines. So why don't you build a logic? Build a logic in the background. Of course, when you automate something, you always need to tell the system what it should do. So you need to have a logic, and you can put a button here. So this button was created with the usability package, just with the right click, and let the system select the batch automatically as you see here. So you can get up, get yourself a cup of coffee, and the system does it for you. This is one very powerful example. Many customers, when they see that, they come to me and say, how did you do that? Because this is exactly what we need. Because I don't want to sit here and select the batch manually. So this was one example you can do with the usability package. Now, if I go to the next one, second example, another automation. Imagine you have a lot of turnover maybe and accounts payable, the person left and you have a new person coming in and you really want to teach them really quick how to create an outgoing payment for you to pay an invoice. And just to save a little bit of time at the beginning with the new person, you make the outgoing payment a little bit easier for that person. So if we go into SAP and I go to purchasing, so you maybe create another shortcut button. I'm going to pull up AP invoice right here. This one is closed. This one is closed. Let me open up open AP invoice. So, and then you put a button here and you can train your new employee just to be quicker. Hey, you know what? I put a button here and if I tell you you need to create an outgoing payment, then you just go in here and say create the outgoing payment. So I can run my check run and pick up this invoice to get paid. So I just click outgoing payment, and what it does, the system, it opens up the outgoing payment screen, does everything I would do manually by clicking around to create an outgoing payment for checks, and there we go. Now I'm ready to print the check for this outgoing payment. Another nice example for to save all the clicks to go to banking, outgoing payment, and so on. You can create a button right here, and your whoever is in charge of outgoing payment just clicks on it and can create the outgoing payment. If I refresh this right now, right here, you see the outgoing payment is closed because I created a payment against it. So let's go to the next example. The third example is about validation. You can validate your data, which is huge. I know you guys liked it. I'm a big believer. If you put good data in your system, you get good reports out, and that's where the validation comes in very handy. So you can validate the data, you can validate the lines and see, calculate something on the line, maybe shipping, depending on a certain column, is how much shipping you will charge the customer. So let's go into SAP Business One again, and I'm going to my sales order this time, and I'm gonna pick a business partner, and I'm going to add some lines. So I'm gonna sell those 3 items to this business partner. There is my delivery date, and you have to add shipping, and you have a logic in the back. So I have a button here called shipping, for example. So I'm gonna click shipping, and what it does, it goes right away and adds a line of shipping for $75. Okay? Of course, you could put it down here too. I always had customers that always liked it on the document. So I'm going to delete this row, and I'm going to change the quantity. I have it based off the quantity just for you to follow through. Of course, if I can base it off a quantity, summarize a quantity, you can summarize other columns. So now I'm going to click shipping. Now I'm getting a message, and it says the number of items in this document is between 10 and 20. Do you want to add shipping with a 50% discount? And I'm going to say yes. So it's asking me a question. I could have said no, and you see it's adding a line again for shipment with the 50% discount automatically. So I'm gonna delete this one again, and I'm gonna change the quantity, total quantity again for this document. Now I have more than 20, and guess what it's gonna do now? I'm gonna click shipping. It's gonna tell me this document has more than 20 items. The customer deserves a free gift. And you say, okay, that's right, that's what we say. If they order this many, they get a free gift, and I'm going to say yes. And it adds a free gift to the document, as you can see here, the last line. And you also see it added shipment also because I told the system to do so with a 100% discount because you want to show the shipment. But you also want to show that it was for free because they ordered more than 20 items, so it gave it automatically 100% discount. So again, it's a beautiful automation. You have the logic in the background. I'm checking my lines here in the document, and the system does exactly what I have configured. Just by clicking on a button, and the system does the calculation for me, what I wanted to do. So let's go to the next one. Though this is really also a validation on a line, on the lines of a document, and then the system adds what you tell it to do. The next example is alerts. That's beautiful also. I'm a big believer on alerts. Warn the user if something doesn't look right, or block the user, as we will see also an example in a minute. So send alerts on the screens for the user. If I go back to SAP Business One, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just change this business partner. I'm going to click on here and change this business partner. I'm going to change it to this one. And you will see what's going to happen if I tap off from the business partner name. I'm going to tap off. Now I'm getting a message. Exactly what you saw in my PowerPoint. It says no available credit. This customer basically is over the credit limit. That's my validation. I have a validation running, looking at my credit limit, and if the customer is over the credit limit, it tells the salesperson who is putting in the sales order, hey, there's no available credit, we need to collect some money. So that's when we talk about alerts. Put validation and alerts for the user makes it so much easier, and they don't have to drill back and see right here, is this business partner within the credit limit, and so on. And you see here also on the business partner master data, it's red also because this customer is above the credit limit. If I scroll through it, I'm just going to show you, this one is green because this one is within the credit limit. It goes hand in hand. So that makes it so much easier for the user right there. So what is our next example I can show you? I love to show you those examples because I think they're so cool, and hopefully it gives you some good ideas what you can do. The next example is about a reporting. So have reports at your fingertips. Okay, so you can create a button, you can attach a crystal report, or you can attach an SQL report. So let's go into the system. So I'm going to go to Business Partner Master Data. I'm going to pull up one of my customers. And you see right here, there is my Business Partner Master Data. I have a bunch of buttons right here. And you want to have a report based on a business partner, for example. Okay, so you can go in here and say, okay, show me the last 10 items for this business partner. And here comes my report. If I go to a different business partner, of course, the report changes because I have the report look at the business partner code. So again, you have everything at your fingertips. If you rather have the report in a tab, you can do that. You can create a tab with the usability package and actually put a grid in there, a SQL report like you see here. And of course, again, if I switch the business partner, the report changes. It's the same SQL query I'm using here, the same I use on this button. If you don't like the tab or the button, you can always create a right click with the same SQL report and pull it up from here. So you have all those options. Maybe you're a right clicker. I had some customers, they were right clickers. They always wanted to have the menu on a right click. So have everything at your fingertips. And since I'm talking about tabs, of course, to create a tab is just, you can create a tab within a minute. With the usability package, you can do an SQL tab, as you see here, or you do a custom tab and put in all your user-defined field, for example. Or you build your own tab and you put in all those fields you work with, so you don't have to switch around on tabs. Very simple. All you have to do is right-click and create a new tab on that screen. Okay, and of course you can do a screen design. Keep that in mind for certain users, for certain user groups, and then you do a different screen design for other users. Of course you have the options. So, but now let's talk about reporting again. So you can put it on a grid, you can put it on a button, on a right click, or if I open up the sales order from here, straight from the button, you can also put like a report here, an item report, and the user can actually choose the items from a report here and copy it into, I'm just going to show you really quick. Copy it into SAP, I say into the sales order from here. So you can do a report I just showed you, or a different kind of report where you have check marks, check all the items you want, change the quantity, and copy it into your document. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is available. Reporting, put it on the button, easy access again. Okay, accessible reporting. Have everything at your fingertips. The next one I'm going to show you is, let's say you have a special running. So you have a special running and your employees don't want to pull up the item master data and always choose that special. You want to make it easier for them. Again, we want to save time and money. So you can do that. You create a button and say deal of the month. And then it's going to take those items and puts it automatically into your sales order, for example. So if I go back to SAP again, I'm actually already in sales order. Here it is. Here's my button. And I'm going to say deal of the month. All I do is one click. It's going to choose the 3 items. That's my special and puts it into my sales order. Okay? And as you see, it had predefined quantity. Or imagine, just since I'm at this button, there is a drop-down button. You can have, of course, a multi-button. That's what you see here. You have one button and you can do several things in there. I have here printer and paper. So imagine you in a certain, you sell certain things, but there is one item everybody always orders. Let's say in the printing industry, everybody always orders paper, copy papers, okay? So you just put a button in here, a selection, so it does it for you automatically, because most 98% of customers will order that to make it easier for the user again. That was this example 6, quick access. And I hope everybody's already thinking about how this can help you in your company. So the next one, also quick access, is a validation. You will like this one. I know you will like. Again, it goes back. Validate your data. You put good data in your system, you get good reporting. Okay? You do not put good data in your system, your reporting will be off. So if I go into the system and I have the sales order open already. So we leave it like this, but what I'm going to do is I am going to change some discounts because I really want to get this sale, and I'm just gonna give a bunch of discounts, okay? And my manager really doesn't like that because sometimes he says you're giving too much discount, we are losing money, and blah 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 blah. We have a rule: you cannot give more than this X, Y, and Z discount, okay? So you go in here, have your sales order ready, and you're really excited. You did all this sale, and you click add. So what does the system do now? It tells me, hey, you have some lines that have more than 10% discount. It gives me the line number, it gives me the item code, it gives me the item description, and guess what? I cannot add this document. So I am blocking the user. Imagine the control you can have. So I'm blocking them. So I have to go through it and change the discount to 10 or less. Then I'm able to add this sales order. And this is this example. You have control over the system. On this screen here, on this PowerPoint, you see it. I have a yes and no button because you are in charge. It depends how you configure it. In my case, I have it configured. It's going to block the user. In this case, on this screen, you see, do you want to continue? It says, do you want to continue? Yes or no? It gives the user just a warning. It still tells them, but they can continue with the higher discount S10. Great example. Imagine what you can do with other fields. Then also, this was in my case just the discount field. This is a very important field. Now let's go in here and talk about another automation. As you can see, we're really into automation. Let the system do the work for you, basically. So always remember, you can copy a document from one document to the other, the whole document. So let's go back into SAP. And right here I have the sales orders. Let's stay in this sales order. That's a good example. So I'm in here and maybe I have a shipping warehouse. So I know every time I do a sales order, I have to do an inventory transfer request. Guess what? I'm going to click on here. I have a button, transfer request. I'm going to click here. And what it does, it opens up my transfer request window, copies over all the items, and it closes out that window. Now, you saw how fast this was? This saves you so much time, because instead of for you to go here, go to inventory, go to inventory transaction, inventory transfer request, then you put in the warehouses, and then you choose all those items you have on the sales order. No, you just click on a button. And actually, let me go back in. You will see, if I go to the last transfer request, that's the one we just did with just one click. We just did one click and it did the transfer request. So keep that in mind. And also you can do, for example, I'm going to have a button here, copy the quote, just the same example, and it's going to copy everything over to the quote. But the difference now is, you see, the quote stays on the screen because I have it configured differently. On this case, I say I do not want the system to click the add button and closes it out. I want to be the one to click the add button. So you configure it exactly the way it works for you, the way it helps your company. That's how you configure the system. Okay? So what is my next slide? Again, validation, authorization. This is for an example. This is something came from a customer. Actually, again, you validate the data, and depending if you have a certain item in a document, it will trigger the authorization. So let's go into SAP, and I'm going to show you this. As I said, this was a request from a customer, and I thought it's a good one to show. So I'm going into the sales order. I'm going to choose my customer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my 3 items again. We have done this earlier. I got out, and you see this user-defined field here. Okay, of course I pushed it over from the side to the main screen, and it says authorization yes or no. So it automatically is defaulted as no, because I have it based on a certain item, just on a certain item. So if I click add, everything is good. It adds the sales order. Okay? So now I'm going to add another item. I want you to see the difference. So it's based on this item. Okay? And now I'm going to update this. Now it's going to go through authorization. Okay? Because I have it triggered, if I add a certain item, I want this to change. I want this to be changed to yes. So you always can go back and check it out, and it's going to trigger an authorization. Okay? So again, another simple way to control your authorization. And what's really nice is, if you ever go back, you see, okay, yeah, this one triggered an authorization because I had a certain item, in my case, on there. So that's another example. Okay? My next example, actually, we're gonna move over to print and delivery now. So this were 9 examples for B1 usability package. Of course, there is so much more, and please ask your partner and set up a one-to-one demo. We can talk more about it, of course, or of course, our partners, they know our solutions in and out also. One thing I want to show you before I move over to print and delivery is with the usability package. First of all, you can create your own menu. You can create menus within an SAP menu, but it comes with dashboards already. we have many dashboards that come out of the box, like you have a sales dashboard, purchasing dashboard, human resource dashboard, and so on. They come out of the box. We also have a calendar that comes out of the box where you can go in here and say, okay, show me all my documents, for example. Okay, this is my production overview, but I can say, choose a different view, and I say, show me everything. And what it does, this is a weekly view, you can have a monthly view, and you see those are all my documents. So you can come in here and say, okay, this is what's due today, it's a different month, apologize, but I have more documents in there. And then you can also say, I'm not going to be able to make this due date for this activity, and I'm just going to move it to a different date. And yes, it will change the due date. Okay, so you can actually change the due date. Let me go back again. I thought I have maybe sales orders and stuff. Oops. There we go. So again, there's deliveries. You see a little bit more. Those are all activities. You always can open it up from here, of course, and say, oh, it's due today. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to push it because I won't be able to make this. I'm going to do it this date, and it will change the date. So we have a beautiful calendar. It comes with certain views, but of course you can create your own view. We also have a Kanban board available for you. This, for example, are production orders, and I can just put it over to release. Of course, it would release it then in the system. You can, of course, drill back by clicking on it, and I'm just going to go in here. Those are the Kanban boards we have available out of the box, but of course, you can always build your own. Also with the dashboards, you can always build your own dashboards. We have a process flow you can display here, and what's the beauty is you can actually, this is just the sales process, I only have one here, you can actually modify those and maybe take air down payment off, because that's, you guys don't do that, or you don't do returns, take it off. So you really can modify this process flow and make it fit your company's process. You also have you can go outside SAP. We also have a browser widget where you actually can pull up a website from here. And of course, you can always go and click around. And what's really nice, we also have a web dashboard, so you can take any of those dashboards and display it on the web. So maybe you have a big screen on the finance department, or maybe on the shop floor, or anywhere, and you can actually pull up a dashboard from here. You decide which dashboards you want to make visible. And then you can also set to refresh maybe every 5 minutes. So people on certain floors have real data, and they look at data that makes sense to them. Okay, this is a very simple, I don't have a lot of data, my sales dashboard, I think, but imagine on a production floor or on a warehouse. So maybe you put a list of pick lists or whatsoever, you can pull it up on the big screen. I wanted you to know that, okay? It comes with the usability package.